Hello, welcome back to another video. I'm going to be starting a new collage today. I've done a bit of planning. I'll just show you some of my sketches, and I've also made a mood board. But we're going to be collaging mushrooms today. So, where are you hiding? They're in here somewhere. Here we go. I was trying to come up with something to inspire me. I had a big old scroll through Pinterest, a bunch of different ideas, and then these pictures really jumped out to me, and I've been wanting to do something like this for a while because I kind of, at this point, I've done a few pieces where it's like just a dark background with lighter things on top. I've done my shells, vegetables, one with like gardening inspired things. That was quite a while ago. It's been ages since I've done anything like that. Probably a year actually since I've done a collage with a dark background and lighter things on top, and I think they look so good. And mushrooms is going to be the next one like that. I did some sketching. The composition, well, I think I prefer this one, but the composition will probably change a lot when it comes to doing the actual thing. Yesterday I painted a bunch of new paper with mushrooms in mind. So all these sheets here, you can see these ones are very much mushroom inspired. Bits like that. I'm picturing these could maybe be like the inside bit of the mushroom, like when you, the big dome area, the big dome bit of a mushroom when you turn it upside down and you see all those lines in it. I actually hate mushrooms. I think they're quite gross, but I really like making art of mushrooms. But when I see them in real life and I see all the lines on them, it just kind of, I think it's a bit gross. I like the taste of mushrooms, but only if they're cut up really, really small and then mixed inside things. I like the taste, but I hate the texture. It really puts me off. Loads of just different, loads of things to pull from in here because I'm going to have some lighter colour mushrooms, some darker ones. A lot of this was done with splattering, watering down my acrylic paint to get lots of muddy, mushy colours. And then this was like dry brushing with like a really splayed paintbrush. And all of this is done with acrylic paint. These textures here, this was done by just painting it with quite wet, watery acrylic paint and then just like scratching it with my nails and then kind of dabbing it with a sponge to get lots of weird lines like this. Anything else of interest to note from these papers? That's quite a nice texture. I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking like I'm going to cut like out that shape and that'll be just perfect for a mushroom. But yeah, I don't know until we get to actually collaging it how much of this I'll actually use. I do all these papers and probably about 5% of these will actually get used as the final piece, but it's good to have the options. And then all this paper here is paper which I already had from my big stash of paper. If you've been here a while, you know I have a big folder filled with paper that I've painted for previous collages, so I just have a big stash to choose from. Really, could I have made the collage with just these? Probably, I would have been able to make something quite nice, but sometimes I just really want to paint specific things, and I always find like when I take the time to do that, the collage always ends up a little bit more interesting because I have certain things like these, for instance, that are just, you know, perfect for mushrooms, but, you know, I'm only going to have them if I paint them specifically for this piece. You know, it's extremely unlikely that I'm going to have that exact shape knocking around in my big paper folder. So it's good to just take a bit of time to do those specific textures, but equally, I do just have loads to choose from as well. It's a little bit overwhelming, this choice. So what I'm going to do is put stuff in kind of colour sections. So I'll have like piles of dark brown, light brown, more reddish tones, more yellow tones, and then from that I will select pieces within those papers which I like. Oh, and before I do that, actually I've got two more sheets to show you. These are still a bit wet. I've painted on this one ripped. I've painted two very dark pieces of paper which will be the background. I let the paper air dry because when you use a hairdryer, this is printer paper, very, very thin. The hairdryer makes it go really bubbly and bumpy, which just doesn't look very good. So I literally sometimes will be sat waiting for paint to dry because I can't use the hairdryer. Hello, I'm going gonna do mostly voiceover for the rest of the video. There are a few little bits where I speak real time, is there? I think there is. Yeah, there is. I can't remember what I filmed. I'm doing this voiceover like 2 weeks after I made this piece of art, so I'm hoping I will be able to do a decent enough voiceover to try and go over what I was thinking in the moment. We will see. Too much time has passed, really. Well, I just get around to it now. Anyway, I sorted through my paper, as you saw, made some piles. And then what I'm doing now is basically I'm cutting out a little section from each piece of paper, which I think, oh, that's a nice bit of something going on there. Just to limit it down, it makes it less overwhelming. I talk about it properly in real time in about a couple minutes time. But yeah. And how do I pick something from the pieces of paper? Why do I pick these pieces of paper? Really, I try not to think about it too much. It's just kind of gut instinct. There's a bit of paint, which I like the way it's mixed with a colour and it's made a nice little thing on the piece of paper. Let's cut it out. Am I going to use it? I don't know. 90% of what I cut out here, I'd even got maybe 95, I don't even use. Majority of collage is cutting out shapes which you shuffle around for ages and then don't even use. But it won't go to waste. I save everything. I save every single piece. Well, not if it's really small. There's no point in saving it. But most of the bigger bits, they all get saved and put in my smaller collage folder. My travel size folder, which is easy to take around. Right, I will leave you with some music and then I will be doing some real-time talking in a little bit. I have gone through almost all of the sheets of paper and from them I have cut out just little segments which I thought had either interesting bits of texture on or were just a nice colour. Basically those two things, texture, colour. And I've made sure I've got a good selection of a lot of different tones. I've got my reds, well, my more orangey, yellowy tones here, few more like kind of bluish tones, into dark, into some green bits, into different shades of brown, into very dark bits. How far can you see on this camera? You can't see all the way over here. There's quite a bit more here. Into some lighter bits. So I've got a good range here. I will probably end up, this won't be everything. I will probably, once I get into the collage, realise I could do with some, other colours. So the paper is still around me. Still got big piles of paper around me, but for the most part I'm going to be using these because looking through this, it's even more. Looking through all of this is very intimidating, so I've limited it. This is a lot less intimidating. These pieces of paper that I showed before, they're still a bit wet, but they're dry enough to cut and start placing onto this piece of paper, and this is going to be really simple, probably just like two big rectangles stuck here, a little bit of a wonkiness to them, and then I will start. Okay, carrying on with the voiceover, I stuck down those two pieces of dark brown paper, and then I did film a bit, and well, no, I thought I was filming something, and then it turns out I hadn't pressed record, so I missed the first, 10 minutes. I probably skipped 10 minutes at this point, but all I've been doing is looking at the sketch I did, picking out my favourite shapes from the sketch, and then I also, whilst I'm doing this, the reference pictures are up in front of me at all times, so I was just picking my favourite shapes from my sketch, finding the kind of right colour, something with an interesting bit of texture, and just cutting it out. But loosely cutting it out. I will go back into the majority of these shapes and cut them out to be a little bit closer to the actual shape. But at this point, I'm
not worried too much about the composition of everything and where it's actually going to go on the piece, and more about just let's get loads of shapes and then see what I can do with them after I've got a selection, and I can move them around as much to my heart's content, because that's the nice thing about collage is you do not have to commit to anything really. Even if you glue something down, you can peel it up. But I basically planned out majority of shapes for this collage without gluing a single thing down. This, when it's a collage which has just like a solid colour background, or sometimes I've done a few where it's just the white of the paper is the background and it's just shapes, kind of almost Tetris style, slotting into each other on top of a plain background. Those are the kind of collages where I can just cut out loads of things to begin with and not worry at all about composition, and then just play around with placement afterwards. If I was doing a landscape or, you know, something with where things had to actually be in a specific spot, then I would take it much slower probably and stick stuff down as I went a little bit more. Something like this, really don't have to worry about that. I was utilising the ripped edge there for the wobbliness of the mushroom. I liked there to be a good mix of ripped and cut, although recently I keep forgetting that just ripping exists. I do some, the past few collages I've done, I just forget that ripping is something that I can do. So for these I was like, oh yes, rips exist. The inside of the circular bit of the mushroom would be a perfect place to add a rip. But I went into this thinking it would be fairly simple, because the thing with a collage like this, where it's like just kind of simple shapes, you know, mushrooms, they're not complicated shapes, they're fairly simple looking things. With a collage like this, most of the hard work, it comes when I'm painting the textures. You know, if you've got good textures, you're like 80% of the way there. You just have to cut them out and place them in the right spot. So I went into this feeling pretty confident, because I knew my textures were very, very good because I'd spent a lot of time on them. I'm going to brag, I'm good at making textures. And I thought I kind of nailed the mushroominess of it all. If you want to see me paint textures, it is something I have done in videos I've made. If you Google, if I remember to put it in the description, I will. My How I Collage videos, or collage, I think they're called How I Collage. The first one I made and the second one, I think, have texture painting sections in them. I also have, do I have one or two? I can't remember. I've made texture making videos, like just like a 30-minute video all about how I make textures for Patreon. You can find them there. But for the most part, it's self-explanatory. It's splattering, it's dry brushing, it's mixing the paint on the paper, just getting messy and splattering paint around. Try not to think about it too much so it's loose, but also do put thought into it, because I do need specific textures that look like the thing I want to make. So it's a fine balance between having something that looks, well, for me, my personal style, looks loose with the textures, but then also has had a decent amount of thought put into it in terms of like, I need yellow splatters on top of a dark brown background, and then I want there to be kind of like a scratched line effect on top of it, little things like that. Like for instance, this mushroom I'm sticking down now, for the for the dark brown bit underneath the top orange part of the mushroom, I knew I wanted a lot of like kind of dry brush line textures, because that's really going to come across like the texture of a mushroom. So just thinking about little things like that, what's going to make this piece of paper really unique to a mushroom, so that when I cut it out, most of the work is done in the texture painting stage of the process, as opposed to me having to then like cut out loads of lines or draw loads of lines on top to make it look like a mushroom. The texture already looks like a mushroom. If that makes sense. I don't know, I feel like I've been rambling too much about texture now at this point. You get the idea. These little mushrooms, like the mushrooms cut in half, they turned out so cute. I was very happy with them. But yeah, I thought this, like the first maybe, 2 hours of this piece, because I did this across the space of 2 days. In total, probably spent, maybe 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours. That might be a bit of a push, maybe 8 hours on this. If you just think about purely the cutting and sticking part of the process, probably, yeah, 10 hours if you add on the paper painting part. The first maybe like 6 hours, I was thinking, oh, this is going really well. And then it got to the point where the piece was kind of finished, and I looked at it and I thought, part of me was thinking, oh, I just need fresh eyes. I've been staring at it for too long. That's why I don't really like it at the moment. I'll go away, go to work, come back, and I'll like it. And then I did that, and I came back and I was like, I don't like it. Something's off, but I have no idea what's off. And I was just staring at it thinking, why don't I like it? I should like it. It's got good textures. It's got good contrast. The composition's fairly nice. Why do I not like it? And, you know, I like mushroom art. This is something I should like. This is me to a T. And I was just staring at it, trying to figure out why on earth I didn't like it. I even had Oscar looking at it. Sometimes, like, just someone new, someone else's perspective can be really, really helpful. And Oscar, he's truthful with my art. I always ask him when I finish something, do you like it? And if his first initial reaction is, oh wow, I think, oh yes, I've nailed it. But if he looks at it and doesn't say something straight away, I think, oh no, there's something wrong. And then he'll always tell me the truth if he doesn't think it's like finished yet. And he was like, I think it just needs more detail. Because I think I was putting too much. I thought the textures themselves would do all the heavy lifting, and they did for the most part. I was thinking, you know, the paper on its own with all the lovely painted textures on it, that's enough for it to be finished. But in hindsight, it did need more actual cut out bits of paper added on top. I wish I'd have filmed this. I wish I'd have filmed a little section of me talking about this in real time, so you would have like actually seen the changes that I made when I had that realization. But I didn't do that, because to be honest, I was feeling pretty down about it. You know, when you spend ages on a piece of art and it's not what you thought it would be. So part of me was thinking, should I just abandon this video? But I thought, no, like I needed this piece of art to be a Patreon print. I had no other time in the month to make anything. Like, this was my allotted time to make a piece of art nice enough to turn into a print. So the pressure was on. I didn't have time to do anything else. So I thought, no, it's a good idea. It's got the base to be a really nice piece. I just need to spend more time on it. So then the following day I spent like another 2 hours, I think, not doing that big of a change, but it made such a huge difference. So I just added on loads more little details, like loads of little circles to the mushroom in the middle, the red and yellow kind of central mushroom. I did loads of little cut out circles on that. Inside the mushrooms that like turned upside down, where you see like the dark brown inside, I added lots of little kind of triangular slivers of light and dark pieces of paper. You can see me doing a little bit of them, but I added on loads more. What else did I do? I think I did on a few more mushrooms, just extra circles, extra bits and bobs, and it made it just something. I feel like there was a point where I just added on like one extra piece of paper and it just clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it, that's all it needed. This one extra piece of paper has made it gone from mediocre to too nice, too acceptable, to print worthy. And after I added on all those bits, I told Oscar, I was like, Oscar, please look at it now, tell me the truth, is it print worthy? That's what I always ask him, is it print worthy? And he was like, yes, I think it is. So I hope you think so too, because it is it will be a print. It is November's Patreon print. I think it's very fitting for the month of November. Mushrooms are starting to grow. I've got mushrooms growing in my plant pots outside. It is mushroom season. And yeah, how much of this video is left? Oh, we're getting to the final shots now. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the process of this piece. Like I said, I wish I'd have kind of filmed before I added on all the extra details, and done like a little before and after shot to show you how just a few extra like little bits and pieces here and there can really elevate the collage. But I think I like it in the end. I had that little worry. I had a moment of a worry, but it all turned out in the end. I hope you like this. If you'd like to receive it in the post, pledge to the Little Stips tier on my Patreon page at any point in November, and that's like, once November's finished, that's it. This print will be no more. And I'm sure the original will be up for sale at some point. I have a bunch of originals knocking about that I need to put up on my website and sell. When I do that, I will announce it. probably on Patreon first. Anyway, that's all from me. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Bye.